Okay, perfect.
There it is. All right. I'm super excited and grateful to have you here, Jamie, and really excited for you to share some of the different experiences you've had with Snorkel and social studies. And I know you've actually created some content in our library too, which we were super grateful for.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to showcase how I use Snorkel in social studies and how you can use Snorkel in social studies as well. So just a little bit about me. I taught high school history for 13 years, and now I'm in my 4th year as an instructional leader, K-12 for social studies. So I support about 20 social studies teachers in my district through coaching, through supporting and some co-teaching with them. And I'm just an AI enthusiast and love everything that's coming with AI and how it can really elevate the teaching in our classrooms. And right now my favorite AI platform is Snorkel. So I'm excited to be here and tell you why I love Snorkel, but specifically why I love it for social studies. So there's so many different reasons why I've found in my short time using Snorkel how much it can support social studies learning in the classroom. One of the ways I really love it is that the existing activities already align to the standards and topics that we teach in our social studies classes. So as John mentioned, the library has been being built. I've been able to have the opportunity to help support building that library. And it's been great because we're creating activities that are already existing that you can find easily and add to your lessons and add to your unit planning as you go to teach those topics in social studies. The other really important thing that I love about Snorkel is that it allows you as a teacher to assess students' historical thinking skills. So much of social studies has evolved from just remembering facts and dates and things like that. We're really assessing students' ability to analyze, to argue, to compare and contrast, to think like a historian. And so within the library and within your ability to build activities, you can really find ways to assess students in their historical thinking and track it over time as well. And then obviously my biggest and most favorite part of Snorkel is the feedback part. And so Snorkel's ability to not only provide quick feedback, but meaningful feedback is so valuable for teachers. And the other little piece of it I love is that within that feedback, it's set into a growth mindset. So it really does encourage students to accept the feedback and to improve by resubmitting their responses. So I thought today I'd kind of dive into those 3 reasons why I love Snorkel using the Snorkel website and showcase those as well. So you should be able to see the homepage now. And in this homepage, you can see the opportunity to find activities. So like I said, Snorkel has an existing library, and social studies is nice in the middle. It's in pink. So if you scroll down, we have history and social studies. So whether you teach middle school world history or high school US history, there's already a lot of activities that are already created for you on the website. And so I'm just going to pick US history because that's a topic that I have taught a lot of and love to teach. And here's where I want to showcase some of those historical thinking skills that are already there for you. So one of the things in social studies that we're doing a lot of is taking perspectives, right? So can students not just understand a topic, but can they take a perspective? And so with this activity, if you're teaching World War I and the causes leading up to World War I and the US entry into World War I, you have this activity where students have to read 2 different perspectives about the events of the Lusitania. And they have to figure out kind of where the bias is, what's the historian's nationality or potential background, and how does that shape their perspective? So this activity not only asks students questions about their understanding of the Lusitania, it asks that historical thinking skill. Can they identify that one is a more German perspective and one is a more British or American perspective based on how the historian retells the events of the sinking of the Lusitania? And so I really love that there's these opportunities to assess students in that ability. And so even if this isn't your topic area, but you have a student who may be struggling with this skill, you could always use this as a resource to test their skill on this topic. Another historical thinking skill we do a lot in social studies is political cartoons. So again, here you have existing political cartoons in the library. This one's a Gilded Age political cartoon. And it does what we always do with political cartoons, right? It asks students to identify an object or two objects in the cartoon. It gets at kind of like, why is it drawn this way? And then like, what is the argument or the point the political cartoonist is trying to make? And what I love about these is that even if it's not a topic you cover, this is good inspiration because you can then take the political cartoons you're already using in class and add them to Snorkl and create your own opportunity to assess student skills. And what I really like is that, again, you could do this on paper, right? I could do a handout, pass these out, have students answer it on paper. But what you're not getting on paper is a way to quickly see how good students are at this skill. And that's what I'm going to show you in the next part is I'll show you the feedback and what the teacher instantly gets as information on students learning. But this is really a great way to, again, assess their skills, and you can put in multiple cartoons over the course of the year and see, did students start off at a 2 out of 4, but now they're getting a 4 out of 4, and you're seeing that growth within their learning. So if you have to data track your students, if you're looking at seeing growth, this is a great tool to be able to see that over time that students are improving in these skills. Another historical thinking skill that I use a lot in the classroom is table and chart analysis. If you teach high school, you know that the SATs involve a lot of like data charts and tables. And so in this task, students are having to look at an election results from 1860. And then they have both a multiple choice question to answer and an open-ended question. And the multiple choice is kind of in that SAT AP style. And so by doing that, students are not only answering a multiple choice question, but because Snorkl has this ability to record student voice, you're hearing the students thinking behind their response. So you're getting more information from the student than is their multiple choice answer right or wrong. You're getting an insight into how they thought about the question and how they defend their answer. And then with the open-ended, same thing. You're getting a more extended view into their ability to critically think about this graph or chart. And so it's opening up this insight into student learning that is just not the same when you have a paper and pencil task for students. So this is a huge library of stuff, and those are just some of the existing historical thinking skills. But I thought it would be great to kind of show you how I would put one together as well. So if I go back home, if you find that there's not something in the library that's assessing the particular content or skill that you want to, you can easily create an activity. So one of the world history topics that we always teach is the French Revolution, and we always teach the 3 estates. And so I love to give kids option number 1, which is the whiteboard recording. I know in the last session, if you were watching, John talked about kind of the differences between the student response types. I love that there are different student response types, and I've used all of them. But the whiteboard recording to me is this great opportunity to blend student voice, and student writing and drawing. So it gives students the opportunity to highlight on the whiteboard, to write or type their answer if they want to, or to speak. And what I've found is for students who struggle with writing, the speaking is a great access point for them. If they just want to verbally talk about how they're answering the question, what their thinking is, it will assess their learning in a way that is more accessible than for some students who may struggle with like putting pen to paper and writing about their thinking. So if I choose that, it then gives you an opportunity to like put together the whiteboard for students. So one of the tips I always tell my teachers is I like to put together any images and questions together. So for this one, I have a little chart on the 3 estates and some of the information, data about land ownership and population and taxes prior to the revolution. But I also, here you can see I added in the questions as well before I kind of screenshotted my image, so that it's all in one place. You could, if you didn't do that ahead of time, you can always add your questions to the right using the text feature. But here I've taken a chart that I normally would give to students before we jump into the revolution. It might be kind of as an entrance ticket. And it's allowed me to provide students an opportunity to do a little inquiry, right? So the first question is about like, what do you notice? What do you wonder about these graphs and charts? And then the second question gets them to think predictively, like, how do you think this predicts the growing unrest in France during the revolution? And so by creating this task for students, I'm getting at a bunch of different historical thinking skills: inquiry, reading graphs and charts, predicting. And again, I'm doing this in a way that students, I can quickly collect this information and even use it to spark how my conversation goes for the rest of the lesson or for the rest of the unit, right? And what I love about creating my own tasks for students is that if I couldn't find it in the library, this still gives me a way to take something I might have done in class, but add a layer of AI, which we know is a little more engaging for students than paper and pencil tasks. And for teachers, it gives them quick data and information about not only their skill ability, but also their ability to understand kind of the foundational learning before jumping into the unit. And so with this task, I would add in my questions. I would hit done editing. This would allow me to then, I like to retype the questions here because then it can be spoken verbally to students. So if you have students who need that audio cueing of directions, if you type it in here, it will cue them again. And then when you get the feedback from Snorkl, it's always important to kind of look it over and make sure that it reflects the level of rigor and feedback that you'd want to give your students. But every time I've made a task in Snorkl, I've been super impressed with how accurate the feedback algorithm is for students. Every time I've done one, I'm like, oh, wow, that's exactly what I would have said, or even more, it's even more detailed than what I would have said, giving better feedback to students, which I love. So you can see the criteria, but like I said, if there's something you wanted to add, maybe there's a, you want to say like this or that, like giving students a chance to say one or two responses, then you confirm it, and then you can try it as a student. And this is a really important part of creating activities, is that you're keeping it human by making sure that you see the feedback that your students are going to get. I think a lot of the presenters today will talk about how important it is for kind of you to see what their feedback will be so that you can see, the level at which you want to support your students. So this is just one of the things I love about Snorkl, is that not only can you find existing historical thinking tasks, you can take your own content, your own activities, your own resources, and find a way to elevate them by putting them in Snorkl for students. And then the last piece that I really love about Snorkl, that I think is so important for social studies education, is feedback. Being a social studies educator who often had anywhere from 20 to 30 students in their class, it was impossible for me to provide super timely feedback all the time to my students on their writing, on their thinking. Even if I did an exit ticket to get through, 30 exit tickets for one period times 5 periods, we're talking about 100 plus exit tickets to read through to help support students. And so by having access to students taking these mini tasks and seeing their thinking in a quick way, I can see what they are doing. So I just want to show some existing feedback that I have from some students that I worked with. And I just want to show a different screen because it's already put in the anonymous. So I'm not sure. Okay. So in this task, I had students, and this one I only had a small class to try this out with, but they were asked to look at a paragraph or a couple paragraphs on a reading and choose the best quote. And what I can see from this response is I had all 8 students score in the strong or excellent category. So even just quickly looking at this, I know that like when it comes to the skill of choosing the best quote, that's not something that I need to go back and reteach with this class. That's something that they clearly have demonstrated through a quick look at the green, strong, and excellent. Okay, good. This class understands how to choose the best quote. So now I know I need to move on to the next part of the continuum, and maybe it's something about finding, evidence and the reasoning that supports their evidence. I can also look at a specific student's feedback. So this student, Olive Ocelot, their pseudonym, she got a 4 out of 4, which is amazing. And what I love is, and people in the past have talked about this, it always starts positive, whether you get a 1 out of 4 or a 4 out of 4, Snorkl finds something to celebrate for the students. And that's so valuable and so important, because if we're working under that growth mindset, we want to have students not get discouraged by a low score, but instead receive the feedback and find ways to improve. But even for my 4 out of 4 student, I love that at the end it says, have you considered how this democratic system might have influenced Athens' artistic achievements as well? So even for a student who scores an excellent, who's got the exact right answer that you were looking for, it finds a way to challenge their thinking and push them a little further. Again, with that idea of now you're supporting your highest students and challenging them to be even better learners. And that's something that, again, as a teacher, we don't always have that time for. We often spend our time providing a lot of feedback to our more struggling learners. And so for an application to be able to not only support struggling learners, but also challenge your top performers to be even more thoughtful, I just love that, dichotomy of feedback, that it gives feedback to all students and pushes them to improve. And then I also have another sample, and this one is a great example of being able to quickly assess that something went wrong with this lesson, right? So this was an exit ticket with, I just had 4 students, but only 1 student scored strong. And the others scored fair or not yet. And so what I can tell really quickly is they don't understand the 3 R's of the Great Depression, right? So either I have to reteach that, or maybe encourage the students who didn't get it to try again. Maybe I need to pull those students into an intervention group and work with them separately. And so again, what I love is that that quickness, right? Instead of having to sort through all of these on paper, instead of having to really spend the time making buckets of students, I instantly see students who are successful and students who are struggling. And then another important feature that I don't know if it's been shown yet that I really love is that, yes, you get the AI feedback, but you can also add your own feedback as well. So it adds that human component, which I know we don't want to lose as teachers, right? AI is there to support teachers, to make things more efficient, and to elevate our lessons, but we don't want to lose that human touch. So I can still encourage the student and tell, Saffron Salamander, I really love that they understood the complexities between relief, recovery, and reform. I could come to my more struggling student, Jade, and say, hey, why don't you go back into your notes on the Great Depression and then try this activity again? And so it really does give so many opportunities to personalize your feedback, and just that's what I really love it for, is how I can support students on all different levels. I'm sorry about the technology issues.
No, you did great, Jamie, and thanks for navigating that around. I really appreciate it, and I think you're able to share some really awesome examples of ways that you using that to see more student thinking and then get every student feedback. I really appreciate what you said about there's so often where I was in the classroom for 10 years, and oftentimes my students who were doing well would get some the least amount of feedback from me. So I really appreciated what you shared about how Snorkl helps to give those students feedback too, and even sometimes it's a small push, and sometimes it's just praise and celebration.
Yes, exactly.
I'm curious, Jamie, and I know you work with a number of social studies teachers at different grade levels. Have you seen this across all grade levels, or where have you been using Snorkl with teachers the most?
We've been mostly using it in middle school and high school. Initially, my district was a little hesitant at using AI with elementary students. We're starting to kind of come around to finding like things like this where it's not necessarily interacting with a AI bot. It's more just getting feedback. I think we're going to open up that to elementary. So I'm actually really excited to work with our elementary teachers next year and see if we can find really exciting ways to use it with the elementary as well. But our middle school and high school teachers have really started to dive in with, again, like exit tickets and end of unit assessments to just try it out and really see how beneficial it can be.
Yeah, I think that's great. And we've talked to a number of districts over the last few years where there is some more hesitation around what does AI look like with some of those younger learners, which makes a ton of sense. Like I think it's really important that folks are being thoughtful and careful about that. And the way we've structured Snorkl is such that we've tried to make it so that student thinking comes first and then the AI feedback comes after. And so it's really trying not to, we don't want to undermine the student thinking. We don't want to take away the opportunity for student thinking. And I think the other thing that's powerful there is because Snorkl is just like submitting an activity, you don't get that back and forth that sort of can lend itself to more of a hallucination from the AI or lead students down an off-track path. And so we've seen that be really powerful too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to just glance here at the chat real quick. Chelsea, use it for test corrections. That's amazing. Kathy, sharing it with your social studies teachers. Thanks, Susan. All right, Scott, elementary representing. This is great. Jamie, huge thank you for everything that you shared here today. And Jamie, we're going to give out some more Snorkl t-shirts. So I don't know if you saw this. We did this a little while ago. But if you could choose for me 3 numbers between 1 and 20, we'll give out 3 t-shirts to those folks.
Sure. I'm going to go with 7, 16, and 4.
7 came up last time too. 7's a good number to be. 16 and 4. Great. And so my teammate Monique right now is looking through the chat to figure out who was the 7th last, the 4th last, and the 16th last person to leave a comment. And then we will reach out to you all with the email that you used to register for today, and make sure we get your shirt size and address, and we'll send you a Snorkl shirt so you can look good in purple too. Jamie, we can't even tell if you're in purple today, but I know that in spirit you are.
I don't know what's going on. It was working and then it's just frozen.
I know. The funny thing is when you first joined, I could see you. So I don't know, and actually you're not the first person to have an issue with StreamYard today. So it might be something happening on StreamYard's side.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for sharing. And
Thank you.
Ahead.